Hello and welcome once again to Ignite Your Impact. My name is Jen Rhodes, and Matt thought I was in here getting ready to do the podcast. Turns out, joke's on you, I was not ready to do the podcast. I was snuggling with Sully.
Yeah. I thought you were taking a long time to get ready, but I didn't realize you were in here just hanging out.
Nope. We were just looking out the window. Just snuggles.
Welcome back, everyone. We missed last week.
Yes, we did.
I was
womp womp.
I was down and out for the count for a while. You can probably still hear it in my voice, but I had a horrible head cold and I could not really literally talk on the mic. So, but hopefully today I can get through it. And so let's jump in. So one of the unique things that I get to do in real estate is I get to talk to a lot of different people. So we're raising capital on properties all the time. And I was talking to a guy the other day. And this is pretty typical with the type of person that I'm talking to. They're successful in what they do, and this guy is super successful in what he does. And he's in a completely different industry, obviously. And I know the guy pretty well. And as I'm talking to him, I start thinking about when people look at someone successful, they usually assume there's some sort of talent in there or some sort of hidden thing. They think maybe that they're smarter. They think that maybe they're more motivated. Maybe they're naturally disciplined. Maybe they got lucky, or they had better opportunities. And I was just thinking about that as I was talking to this guy. And honestly, after spending years in business, years in investing, years in marriage, and everything in there, and then being around a lot of high performers, I just don't think that's true. And in fact, I know that is not true.
Yeah. We see it constantly, though.
Yeah.
I think. You know what I mean? The people that get amazing results aren't always the most talented, right? They aren't always the most athletic. And they definitely aren't always the most motivated.
Yeah. And I would tell you many, many times, some of the wealthiest people that I've sat with in rooms are not the smartest in the room.
I think that's a great quality right there.
Yeah. But they certainly have skills that quietly influence everything they do. That's why I said lucky earlier is not one of them. They have these skills that quietly influence everything that they do. And that's what we want to talk about today. We want to dive into some of those skills, the skills that no one really talks about, but they matter more than the talent that you bring to the table. And the skills that these can completely change everything about your life, your health, your business, your relationships, and your fitness. So you don't have to have a lucky streak. You don't have to have money from family. You don't have to have motivation and discipline to get where you want to go, because it's these hidden things that are what really keeps people at the top and helps get them to the top. So let's jump to the first one.
Let's dive in.
Yeah. So the first skill is asking better questions. And that sounds super simple, but it is a huge, huge separator. Most people ask in investing, is this a good deal? But experienced investors ask, what assumptions have to go wrong for this deal to fail? And that's a completely different question. That question, the first one is looking for validation, where the second one is looking for more understanding. And I know there's a good amount of people that have invested with me that listen to this podcast. So this is for you. You need to be asking that question of me, and I need to be asking that question before I even put a deal in front of you. And I want to give you an example. So another group brought a deal to us, and I would tell you 99.9% of apartment complexes do not get bought by one group. It is generally 3 to 4 groups coming together, bringing their talents, their specialties, and their investors together to take down a big apartment complex. So this group
to take on, not take down.
We call it take down.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Keep going. I have a follow-up question for later.
Well, take down means we have to raise a lot of money. You got to take it down.
Doesn't make sense, but okay, keep going, Matt Rhodes. Sorry to interrupt.
So they bring this deal to us, and it is amazing. I'm telling you, the assumptions are extremely, extremely conservative. This market is perfect. It's one of those deals that I don't think you can get much better than that. But my partner, I kept asking, what assumptions would have to fail to make this deal not worth it? And we couldn't find any in the numbers, but we just kept asking. And we finally came around to the group that brought us this deal, they are rock stars, all stars. We definitely want to be in business with them. But what we realized, what could go wrong is this group has their hands in 3 or 4 deals at the same time, which means what could go wrong? The business plan may not get carried out the way we want it to because they're so busy. So we paused. And if you just ask the question, is this a good deal? The answer in this scenario is yes, it is a good deal. But when you start asking that question a little bit deeper and a little bit differently, that's when you get to the real answer. And anything you're doing in life, I just gave an investing example, but fitness is the exact same way, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I get asked, what workout should I do? To which, Matt, what do I always say?
Tell me more.
Tell me more. Like what workout should I do? What diet should I follow? Right? Those are fine questions, right? But successful clients will eventually ask, why haven't I been consistent? What keeps knocking me off track? What happens every time I quit? Those questions can actually create change. And I'm thinking specifically of a client that came to me after trying everything under the sun, every new shiny object to get to this one specific goal. And every few months, it was something new, a new meal plan, a new challenge, a new workout program. Oh, I'm following a new influencer. And every time she'd ask, what's the best diet? But that wasn't the real question, right? Because none of those plans failed. They all worked for a little while. The better question was, why do I keep ending up in the same place? And as we dug deeper, we realized she wasn't lacking information, right? She wasn't lacking discipline. That's for damn sure. She was lacking strategy. She knew how to do the things, but she didn't know what things to do to get to the thing. You know? She was choosing plans based on what sounded good, not based on her actual goal. And every time that life got busy, the plan fell apart because it was never built for her life in the first place. And once we stopped asking, what diet should I do? And started asking, what approach can actually sustain while reaching my goal? Everything changed, right? Not because we found a magic plan, not because I know everything. Side note, I know everything. No. But because we finally matched the strategy to the outcome that she wanted. Yeah? And guess what? It's not cutting carbs. Yay! But that's the difference between being busy and making progress, right? We decided to act like sharks, not squirrels. And that's the difference, right? A lot of people are doing things. A lot of people are doing all the things. Very few people are doing the right things for the result they're actually after. And one thing I've learned is the quality of your life is often determined by the quality of the questions you ask.
I love that.
Tell me more.
Yeah. So number one is start asking better questions. That is one of the hidden things that successful people do is they start asking better questions. So let's jump into number two. The second one is delayed gratification. And I think this one is honestly.
Should I just take over at this point?
It's getting more valuable almost every single month, but I was going to say every single year because everything around us is immediate. And that's not bad. I'm just saying everything around us is immediate. Think about it. Food, you've got DoorDash. Entertainment, you've got everything that downloads that immediately you can go to Spotify and listen to any song, or you can go to Netflix and watch about any movie. Think about shopping. I mean, you can order something and have it in the afternoon on your doorstep. And then information is everywhere. I'm not saying those things are bad. What I am saying is delayed gratification is key because everyone wants a result right now. Apartment investing does not get you wealthy immediately. Fitness does not get you in shape immediately. If you're making decisions for today and not thinking about the long term, that is where you get into trouble. And often you don't see results for years in anything that you're doing that makes a difference. Now, you're going to start seeing some results in the fitness soon. You're starting to get some cash flow from businesses, but it's that long-term delayed gratification that gets there. And
That's why I only work in 6 and 12 months.
Yep.
Yeah.
And our business plan for investing is 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long-term game. It's delayed gratification. But I was talking to this guy the other day. Again, I talk to a lot of people doing this, and most of his money was sitting in the stock market and 401k. And I told him, we shoot for a 1.9 multiplier. And what that means is if you put in $100,000, we're going to get you back $190,000 over 5 years. That's kind of what we shoot for. And he loved that idea. I mean, everyone listening loves that idea.
Right?
That's a great return.
That's a great return.
But he was used to looking at the stock market, that his stocks as well as his 401k. And he loved those huge swings when days just went crazy or weeks went crazy and it went all the way up. It gave him a rush to look at his accounts. And I said, okay, let's look at the 5-year history of everything you've done. And we pulled it all together. And it was like 11% return, I think it was around 11, which is pretty typical. So over a 5-year span at $100,000, that's $165,000. And there's no tax advantages in there. There's huge tax advantages in real estate. So he was looking for that instant gratification where he could open up his app. I just talked about this, how everything is so immediate. And he could look at his stocks and he could feel he was doing something good.
He just wanted a dopamine hit.
Yeah, it was the dopamine hit that he wanted. But when you're able to delay that gratification, you make better choices. Now, that was just an example in investing, but fitness is even bigger.
Yeah.
With a delayed gratification.
Yeah, 100%, right? Nobody gets healthy in 3 weeks, right? Nobody builds a great body in a month. Sorry guys. I just said it. This is why I work in 6 and 12 month plans, because we need that strategy. We need that process, right? But people constantly quit because progress isn't happening fast enough. And I had another client that was doing everything right. And thankfully, she trusts me, shows up to workouts, does her homework, hits her nutrition, following the plan. But after the first couple of months, she was getting frustrated because the scale wasn't moving fast enough. And she was looking in the mirror thinking like, maybe this isn't working. Maybe I need a different plan. Maybe my body just won't change. And honestly, that's the moment that most people quit, right?
Yep.
Not because the plan failed, but because the results hadn't shown up on their timeline. So we had a conversation and I told her, I said, the question isn't whether it's working. The question is whether you'll stay consistent long enough to find out. And she did. And she trusted the process. And we held hands the whole time because that can get very frustrating, right? But what she didn't realize was that her body was laying the foundation long before the big changes became visible, right? And then around month 4, everything started to compound. Now think about that. Putting your head down and working for 120 days before you could see the results. But that day 120, inches just flew, right? Clothes fit completely different. It almost felt overnight, right? Energy improved. Confidence came back. And by the end of our 6 months together, she had lost 17 inches. That didn't start really compounding until month 4. Not because we found a magic trick, right? Not because we've changed the plan every few weeks. My approach stayed the exact same. But because she stayed committed long enough for the results to catch up to her effort. Now, bottom line, most people quit in month 2, right before the results they wanted to show up in month 4.
Yeah, I've got a great story to add on to that, but I'm gonna hold off because I think it fits under a better category.
Ooh.
But another one is our business. I think our business is the same thing. Whether it's an investment, I talk real estate investment, but whether it's an investment in your business or real estate, it's really the same thing. We've been in the gym business for 20 some years, and it has taken a long, long time to build the systems and the understandings, the better questions, the delayed gratification that compounded today where we're at today. It just takes longer than people think. We still make mistakes, but it's not like the mistakes we used to make. And I've seen,
because we learned.
I've seen so many business owners give up after 5 years. It's like that 2-month mark you talked about in fitness. I've seen so much. If they just would have stayed with it, it just takes time. You just needed a little delayed gratification. One of the greatest advantages today is simply being willing to wait, because most people won't.
Yeah.
If you can outwait a lot of people, you're going to win. So let's jump into the third one. First one was asking better questions. The second one was delayed gratification. And the third one that these successful people have is
my favorite.
It's one of my favorites too, is being coachable. That's the third one. And this one changed my life. You know, looking back, every major breakthrough that I've ever had came from someone helping me see something I couldn't see in myself, or a system that I couldn't clearly work through myself. Not because they had all the answers. Coaches don't have all the answers, but they had perspective that I didn't have. They had a different perspective. And I remember we'd been in the gym business 14 or 15 years, and we had a lot of success in what we were doing, but our business was starting to get to that maturing phase. Businesses all get into a maturing phase, and they got to rebuild themselves and do something different. And I know we talked that if we didn't do something, we didn't know where we would evolve to. And I personally think, you tell me if I'm wrong, I think one of my superpowers is that I'm coachable.
I 100% agree.
And I used to be afraid to hire coaches, but I think I'm very coachable. Now I hire them all the time. But so we were introduced to this guy, and he had all the credentials, and we hired him. And he literally turned everything we've been doing for 14 or 15 years upside down. And it was scary. It was really, really scary. He changed everything we've been doing. But we listened to him and we followed his play. And the craziest thing about this is where I said perspective. I think this is where that perspective ties in. We were coachable enough to do what he said, even though we'd had good results doing it a different way. And revenue increased. It absolutely did. He did the right thing. But a major thing that I didn't realize was going to happen and had no expectation was employee retention. He had systems set up that made the employees' jobs easier. Now, I don't want to go into all the details about that, but it made them more comfortable, and I didn't have that perspective. So it literally increased revenue, but it changed. We didn't have to keep hiring people. We kept people. People weren't leaving, and they were making more money, and they were happier, and customers were more happy because we were coachable.
Yeah.
And just because you know something and have done something before that has worked just like we had, doesn't mean a coach can't completely change your trajectory by changing your perspective.
Yeah. Everyone's got blind spots.
Everyone does.
Everyone. No one is immune to this, right? I'm actually thinking of a client who was the exact opposite, right? So she came in immediately and said, Jen, you've been doing this for over 20 years. I've been trying to figure it out on my own for 20 years. I'm done trying to be the expert. And honestly, I love these kinds of clients. I really do. I love all my clients, but not because they blindly follow directions, but because they're coachable, right? And I also understand that I have things to learn within this process as well, right? I have to learn how they learn. But these people ask questions. They want to understand the process. But once they understand it, they commit. They stop looking for shortcuts. They stop changing the plan every week. You know who you are if you're listening. They do exactly what I say in the homework instead of just winging it on their own. You better be listening right now. I caught you again. No. They stop letting social media convince them that the answer is somewhere else, right? And they simply say, you have more experience than I do. Let's do it your way. And almost every time, those clients get results faster. Not because they're special, but because they spend their energy executing the plan instead of constantly questioning it. Coachable people compress time. And I think that's one of the biggest, I think that's why that's one of your biggest superpowers, Matt.
Yeah, because time is a big fucking deal to me.
Same Z's.
Yeah.
right? That's what coaching really is, right? It's borrowing somebody else's experience to compress your time.
And you know what's funny is
I like that.
that was good.
I like it.
I wasn't trying to move on.
No, you're fine.
Something that's funny is the individual, I started out this podcast talking that I spoke with this guy who he had all these traits. And what's funny is, you know how I met him? Was through a mutual coach that we both hired because he's coachable. That's one of the things that he has.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the
Coach
fourth
me up.
one. So there's 5. Let's move on to the fourth one. The fourth one is emotional control.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This one doesn't get talked about enough.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Because most bad decisions are made through emotions.
Yeah.
In investing, people get excited, they get scared, people panic, people chase. And usually the market punishes them for that emotional behavior. It punishes them. I literally just posted on social media a couple weeks ago about something very similar to this, about how most people in investing and in real estate are listening to the headlines that are getting screamed and doing based on what they're hearing there. The best real estate in any investing happens when you block all that out and you start looking at the facts. You start looking at the trends. You understand growth. You start looking at how things go, and you control your emotions. You don't let someone else dictate those. And you've heard it before that the people who lose are always the ones that are selling when things are going down and buying when they're going up. That's the exact example of emotional intelligence, or the opposite of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Knee-jerk reactions are what get people in trouble.
100%. I'm going to turn it right back to fitness then. Right? Like the scale's going to go up 2 pounds. The scale's going to go down 2 pounds. The scale could go up 5. The minute that happens, people think everything stopped working. I don't know what I did. It was going so good. Now I'm up 4 pounds, right? Then they start to miss a workout. Maybe they miss a meal. Then they have a bad weekend, and suddenly they think they've failed. I mean,
yeah,
there's a reason I do a 7-day check-in and not a 1-day check-in. Fair?
Yeah, I remember this early back in my transformation phase, and I told my coach,
I don't think this is working.
No. That's not what I told him. You know, I told him, hey, man, I screwed up on my steps. At that time, I was getting 10,000 steps a day, and I did horrible all week. But then the last 2 days before my check-in, I got like 15,000 steps. He's like, Matt, that's not the way it works. We measure it over a week.
Yeah, you can't rob Peter to pay Paul and hope that the clock resets at 0 every day. Because it doesn't. It doesn't. And it's why I do a 7-day check-in, right? Like I scale out to see what the full trend is doing. Because weight loss is going to look just like the stock market, right? Up and down, up and down, up and down. But depending on the goal, as long as it's trending in the right direction, we don't make any sudden movements, right? Just trust the plan. This is what your body's doing. It's reacting and anticipating.
Everyone listening right now, I want you to realize that you are a CEO. You may not own a business. You may own a business. You may be a stay-at-home parent. You may be a teacher. It doesn't matter what you are. You are a CEO of your life. And one thing I've learned, your emotions make a terrible CEO, no matter what you're doing. Doesn't have to be investing. It doesn't have to be fitness.
Autobiographical.
Emotional control. I think that's probably the biggest one. But let's jump into the fifth and final one. I said the other one was my favorite. I think I said that. But I think this is probably my favorite one.
This is your systems guy, though.
Yeah. The last skill is probably the least exciting, but maybe the most important in my mind, and it's consistency. It's along the lines of delayed gratification that we just talked about, but it's what you're doing during that delay to get the gratification. That delayed gratification that we talked about comes from the consistent things you do. And most successful investors are not brilliant. They're just consistent. Mm-hmm. Same thing with fitness. Most successful business owners are the same way. They aren't superhuman. They are just consistent. Most successful people simply just keep showing up. And everyone listening right now, think of someone or maybe a couple people that are super successful in an area of their life. This should be, when I say think of someone, think of a friend, someone you know They're successful in maybe a marriage, or maybe they're successful in business, or maybe fitness, or maybe finances. And if you think of 2 or 3 people in some of those categories that you know right now, you're probably saying to yourself, there's a really good chance that you're saying, it's crazy because they're not any smarter than me. They aren't any more disciplined than me. And they actually don't even work as hard as I do, but somehow they're successful.
Yeah.
It's because they're consistent. They show up every single day for that marriage. They show up every single day for that business. They show up every single day for whatever they're doing.
Yeah. And back to fitness, you nailed it right on the head there, right? Most transformations are not extreme. They're consistent. And I've been preaching this for so long and will continue to scream it from the top of my, this is the hill I will die on, right? The extreme is what causes failure. It's the boring things repeated long enough. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah. And here's the story I was thinking of earlier. I knew it fell better in this category. For me, my first real transformation, meaning abs at 43. I consider having abs a transformation. And I don't want to make this a long story because I know we're going a little bit long today. But every day, just doing the boring stuff until it became natural. That's what I did. And that's what our clients do. Then one day I looked in the mirror. I don't know what the month was, but if we're equating it to years, it was probably like 3.5 months. I saw a twinkle of a little bit of an ab, maybe a little bit of a shadow.
It was about the time where I was like, all right, maybe I need a coach too.
and I kept going. But I did the consistency long enough just to see a little bit. And then I went through my weight loss phase. So I went through that weight loss phase. And then after that, we generally do a muscle building phase. So then I built muscle. And then you do a cut for the summer is what I would call it. And the thing that surprised me most about this consistent behavior was after summer, after I'd done that first, what do we call that? We call that
foundation.
First cycle, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Season
is what I was looking for. After I'd done that first season, after the summer was over, I went back into a muscle building phase. Then when I got into my cut, it just fucking melted off. And I was like, holy shit, what just happened? This was so much easier. What I'd done is not only did I'd chosen behaviors that became natural, I'd also changed my metabolism through that. So the second time around was just so much easier. And the hidden gem in this, what I'm trying to get across on this consistency thing, the hidden gem is that boring, consistent work not only makes the goal achievable, it makes doing it another time much easier because in my case, I had trained my metabolism, but think out broad. In most cases, you've learned something now that you didn't know before, that you can put into action better the second time. You've learned from those mistakes. And just like my body had learned, in business and relationships, you're going to learn and it's going to get easier if you just stay consistent.
Yeah. I will actually say, looking back at my transformation, mine was the exact opposite of yours. Okay. I had those tactics perfect.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like I've pretty much had physique since late 20s. Why? That was my job, right? I kind of needed the body to show up, right? And so I had those habits down. My transformation was in that muscle building phase.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm following you.
And my boring consistency was something I would not have even ever equated to a fat loss transformation. But this last process, this last habit changed every way I've gone about every other transformation then on, right? I stopped negotiating with myself. I fueled my body instead of restricting it. Because remember, I know how to get skinny the wrong way, right? Those tactics are easy. I've starved myself for years. I didn't know how to put on muscle to make this job easier. I learned that recovery wasn't something that I earned. It was part of the process. I didn't get to earn my rest. I had to learn how to sit still. I had to practice consistency in sitting still. Those fellow squirrels, yes, right? I know what that thought does to you because I was there, right? For years, I thought doing more was the answer. More cardio, more workouts, lift more, teach more classes, more effort, keep going. on less fuel. But what I actually needed was more trust, more patience, more recovery. And that's when Victory Hour became non-negotiable for me. And I know if you're in the first part of your journey with me, I understand it makes no sense. Why am I doing this? Please understand it's part of the process, and I'm going to make your life so much easier and less grind, right? So every morning before the world gets access to me, unless the puppy needs to potty, right? I spend time reading. I spend time thinking, planning, praying, and getting aligned, getting my brain right. I stopped reacting to life and started leading it. And I stopped letting one weigh-in determine my mood. How many times a day do you think I weigh myself, Matt? It drives him crazy.
Yeah, I don't understand why.
But it's how I broke myself of the emotional roller coaster of what the scale said. No matter what it said, in my head, I say data. And every time I walk by the scale, I step on it. And the more exposure I had to that process, I don't care what it says now. It's data. Great. That's awesome. Cool. Knowledge is power, friends, right? I stopped letting one bad day determine my confidence, one setback determining my identity. And I learned to trust trends instead of moments, right? And here's the funny part. This habit was the easiest physical transformation I've ever been a part of. The easiest. And it gave me everything I've wanted. And somewhere along the way, the physical transformation stopped being the most important thing. Because the real gift wasn't the body. It was the peace. The peace of taking a rest day without guilt. The peace of eating without fear. What is this carb going to do to me? Well, now I know physiologically exactly what it's going to do to me, and it's going to feel so good inside. Carbs are good. They want to help you, right? The peace of knowing that my worth was not attached to a number, a photo, right? Or what I saw in the mirror. And looking back, I thought I was building a better body, but what I was actually building was a better mind, a calmer mind, a more confident mind. A mind that doesn't need constant proof to believe the process was working. And the external transformation was visible, right? I've got the pictures to prove it, right? The internal transformation was priceless because I finally stepped into the best mental version of myself.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, I didn't realize we were going to go this long today, but I love these 5 things. And I would tell you, let's wrap it up a little bit here, but I would tell you, as I get older, the more I've realized is rarely about knowing more. It's rarely about talent. It's rarely about luck. Those things sometimes, they do play into it, but it's usually about mastering a few skills that quietly influence everything around your life. And that's the secret sauce. That is really the secret sauce when you boil it all the way down to the questions you ask, the patience that you have, the willingness you are to learn, the emotions you control, and the consistency that you maintain. That is the secret sauce right there.
Yeah. Those skills eventually show up everywhere, right? In your health, in relationships, in your finances, in your business, right?
Yeah. And what's interesting is nobody sees those skills. That's why we wanted to highlight those today. That's why we want to talk about them, because no one sees the skills. They only see the results. When I was talking to that guy that I initially opened up with, I know him, but if you didn't know him, you'd only see the results. You wouldn't see the skills that he has. But the results are just that visible part that other people see. The real work happens underneath. It's those invisible skills that eventually create those visible results that people see.
I love it. All right, let's wrap. This was a long one. I hope you're still with us. I also hope that you share this with someone you think will find value in it. Give us a 5-star review. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Do all the things. Mr. Matt, would you like to say goodbye?
Goodbye, everyone. And I'm feeling much better, so I'm pretty much sure we will talk to you next week.
Cool.